Welcome to Good Game, I'm Bajo. Hex.
Bajo, I can't get it to turn on.
Yeah, it's broken.
What?
Yeah, it's broken.
Who broke it? Was it Nick?
Yes, it was Nick.
Wasn't it?
Nick broke it,
For
absolutely.
1 week, I swear it was... Oh, Nick. What are we playing this week?
Well, we'll start by taking some shelter.
Also this week, we pay close attention to all sides of the story.
We screamed at each other, argued, cried, we fought. I hit her back, left a bruise.
Plus, things get messy in a new shooter from Nintendo, and Lego finds a way.
But before all that, can you name the game for this week? One of the nice surprises to come out of E3 was a little game called Fallout Shelter, which was announced and almost immediately released.
Yes, it's a free-to-play mobile game from the makers of Elder Scrolls and Fallout, and it's basically an underground tiny tower.
You have to build up, or build down, your vault. Fill it with dwellers and make sure you have enough power, food, and water to keep your vault running smoothly.
Things start off pretty hectic. You never seem to have enough of anything, so you're always scrambling to get more caps, to build more rooms, and get more supplies.
You can rush your rooms, which will give you the goods almost instantly. But that does have a chance at failing and causing a disaster, which will just set you back even more.
And meanwhile, you're regularly hit by raider attacks, fires, and radroach outbreaks that can wreak havoc through your vault if you're not prepared. Luckily, you can resurrect dwellers that bite the dust.
Your vault's dwellers also have their own special stats, and each room has a particular stat that it requires for efficient operation. The more efficient a room is, the quicker it'll produce the goods.
Hex, I thought this game was at its best early on, where there's all that chaos and you're scrambling around trying to get everything running. But once you do get everything running, I just found that it ran out of steam.
Yeah, and there's not really any end game to speak of. If you can be bothered, then you could try and fill up your vault to the maximum 200 dweller capacity, I guess. But once you've got everything in a nice balance, it seems sort of pointless.
Yeah, and I found myself actively avoiding letting people have babies and letting other people into my vault just because I didn't want to have to deal with another mouth to feed.
I think the only real end game is if you want to try and collect everything or train up your dwellers and max out their special stats. That way you can send them off into the wasteland and they'll collect some of the best gear in the game while your vault will just be cranking out the goods like crazy.
But then there's nothing to do with that gear. I just wish there was something else to do, whether it was crafting, or imagine if you could raid your friends' vaults, or trading, just something else.
I know, and I feel like when we play games, we often have those thoughts like, wouldn't it be great if we could do this or that? But in this case, it definitely needs something, because there just isn't enough depth to keep you coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a great game in here that just hasn't been realized yet.
Yeah, and it's definitely got stuff that I like. The base building is satisfying, and that Fallout charm and humor is great. The way your dwellers have little conversations with each other. And just the way weird kind of disturbing stuff happens so naturally.
Yeah, like how dwellers' babies get a stat boost based on their parents' stats, which means you end up with designated breeders. But it wasn't long before I realized that people of the same family won't get on with each other, which is frustrating, but probably for the best.
Yeah. Or how the bishop outfit gives you a boost to charisma, so that's good for attracting mates, but then all of my male breeders ended up being bishops.
It's not a story you get from many games, is it?
No, it's not.
Sexy bishops aside, one good thing about this game is that it's properly free. There's no premium currency to worry about. Rushing rooms doesn't cost anything. And buildings get built instantly, so it doesn't use typical mobile mind games to get you to spend real-life money.
Of course, you can spend money if you want, though, on lunchboxes. Each box has 4 cards, which reward you with anything from extra resources, weapons, armor, or special dwellers. So they can be useful, but you can also complete challenges to earn them for free, so I never felt the need to spend any actual money on them.
It is a bit sad that we have to commend a mobile game for not being a manipulative rip-off.
Well, that's the world we live in, Bajo.
Indeed. This is a fun distraction, and I love that 2D on 3D art style, but it probably won't hold your attention for that long. I'm giving it 2.5 stars.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they'll continue to support it and maybe put in some sort of end game down the track, but as it is, I'm giving it 2 stars.
Here's what's making headlines. Greens Senator Scott Ludlam has successfully passed a motion through Parliament to launch a Senate inquiry into the state of the Australian games industry. Senator Ludlam noted that while video games are a growth industry globally, Australia has treated them as the poor cousin of the creative industries. The inquiry aims to help establish what the government can do to help grow the local industry, and is due to report in April 2016, while dates for public hearings and submissions will be announced shortly. The PC version of Batman Arkham Knight has been removed from physical and digital stores after it launched with significant performance issues. Upon release, many found the game's frame rate was extremely unstable on even high-end PCs, and that it was also capped at 30 frames per second. On top of that, several graphical features from the console version, such as rain effects and ambient occlusion, were completely missing. Rocksteady has since released a patch which fixes several issues, such as missing graphical features, but says it will take some time to fix everything. Bulletstorm and Gears of War Judgment developer People Can Fly has announced that it will split from Epic Games to become an independent developer again. The studio has been owned by Epic since 2007 and was renamed as Epic Games Poland in 2013. The studio has now reclaimed its old name, but will continue to partner with Epic while building their new game.
Does that sound about right to you, Lieutenant Baird?
And that's all for this week.
Well, it's time to delve once again into the wackiness that is Unlucky Dip. And this week, I have a treat for you, I hope. Let's find out. Tea Party Simulator. This is great because if there's anything that anyone knows about me, it's that I'm a huge tea drinker. I dare say I've hosted a tea party or two in my time. I find it interesting that someone's tried to create this experience virtually, but let's find out how it goes. Okay, so you can control the hand with the mouse. Left and right buttons take you like up and down, and you can move the hand like forwards and backwards, like that. And with the keys A, W, E, and R, you can move each of the individual fingers and the space bar for the thumb. Your fabulous tea party is to take place on a deserted island. Your tea party guest? A small stuffed toy bear. Alright, well, my objectives are tea, cup, plate, biscuit, and cake slice. I'm gonna attempt biscuit first. Oh no. Oh no. You clown. Oh, but I completed the objective. Right. God, just grab it. No. Alright. Here's my tea for you, bear. It's like orange soft drink colored tea, but it's tea all the same. Enjoy. Oh no! I spilled the teapot. Oh, there's water going everywhere. Alright. I can recover, I can recover. Oh, I got the whole tape! No! Tea party aborted. Let's just say that's not how tea parties are supposed to go. Tea Party Simulator follows in the footsteps of games like Surgeon Simulator with its wonky physics, or even games like Quop and Clop, where you have to use individual keys in the keyboard to control specific limbs to perform basic motor skills. Objective complete, I think. No? As usual, most of the hilarity comes from the wackiness of the physics. Ah! Oh no. This isn't going well at all. I just don't know why it's set in a desert island. What's in this chest? Sunglasses! And I'm gonna put these in the bear. It worked! Amazing. It's definitely a cut above Quop, but I think Surgeon Simulator does a better job of creating a ridiculous scenario for you to try and be as coordinated as possible in a rather high-stakes setting with complicated and fiddly controls. All in all, I think it's a fine entry into this particular genre of sim, and you know, it's a fun game to try out with your friends to see who can host the most civilized party and create the least amount of damage. This was very silly, but I did enjoy it. Now, if you'll excuse me. And now for a couple of games we're also reviewing on Spawn Point, but we've been having such a good time with them, we couldn't resist having another chat about them here.
Yes, and starting with a game based on the greatest movie of all time, Jurassic Park.
Well, it's a good movie. I don't know if it's the greatest
Of
movie.
all time.
Isn't there anything else to eat on this island?
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Yes, get ready to get that John Williams score stuck in your head for 10 hours of bashing and building. LEGO Jurassic World is faithfully based on all 4 dinosaur films, which you play in chronological order. Bajo, I was not expecting this game to be so scary. A LEGO game.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, that first film is still quite scary as an adult, and it's just as stressful in LEGO form. That whole introduction is just so moody. The cage in the trees.
I want tasers on full charge.
The screams of the raptor. The strange obsession with sausages. Okay, that last part wasn't in the movie, but often they use shot-for-shot recreations and audio recordings from the films.
Shoot her! Shoot her!
Although some of that audio quality is a little bit hollow for video games, making it hard to understand at times.
Really uniform direction changes, just like a flock of birds evading a predator.
After all, the first movie was made, oh my gosh, over 20 years ago.
Oh, I feel old.
Oh, I am old.
Velociraptor?
No, not Velociraptor.
I quite liked how they took noises from the characters from the movies and then just used them as generic jumps and fighting noises for the characters in-game. It's a bit weird, but I don't care.
Best of all, this game is a bit of a change of pace for the LEGO franchise. Recent LEGO games tend to focus heavily on combat, and that's the weakest part of the LEGO formula because the fighting is so simple. But with Jurassic World, they've brought puzzles and film moments to the forefront of design, especially in chapters based off the first 2 films, which are by far the best. And I think a lot of that has to do with our attachment to those films.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they've been really clever about tweaking iconic moments for a game that can always be played in co-op. And there's some standout sections, such as that whole kitchen sequence.
Oh man, that part where you're being hunted by raptors outside with Muldoon.
Clever girl.
Oh, and that cliff section from the second film.
So good. And of course, they've tweaked it so that no one actually ever dies. Even the cow at the start doesn't actually get fed to the raptors.
The essence of chaos.
Chaos theory. Hex, this brings me to my favorite part of this game. Finally, after all of these years, we get to be Jeff Goldblum in a video game.
There's one thing the history of evolution has taught us. It's that life, finds a way.
Truly a special experience, Bajo.
Yeah, it's just so delightful. I wish I could be Jeff Goldblum in every video game with some sort of universal amiibo or something. That's the dream.
I just wish the islands were fully open world, though.
Yeah, me too. A little more room to explore and breathe would have been nice.
Overall, this is an intense wave of nostalgia gaming.
It can smell me.
And it's a wonderful cross-generational game. Adults and younger gamers can happily co-op and have equal enjoyment.
Barry, charge up the gate.
I am giving it 4 stars, Bajo.
I had a great time with this, Hex. It reminded me of the first time I played Lego Star Wars, reliving such a magic movie within a game in a new and fun way. I'm giving it 4.5 Jeff Goldblums. Next up, it's time to get messy in Splatoon.
This really was quite an unusual move for Nintendo. I mean, last year if you'd asked me to name the two genres that we were least likely to see from Nintendo, shooter and online multiplayer would have been at the top of my list, and yet they're both at the core of Splatoon.
And it hasn't even got Mario in it. It may sound completely non-Nintendo, but that's allowed them to bring some really fresh ideas to the shooter genre. For a start, the multiplayer is not so much about shooting your opponents as it is shooting the environments.
That's right, the winning team is the one that's covered more of the map in their team's ink. Sometimes it will make sense to KO your opponents to delay their ability to paint, but really the map is what you want to focus your strategy on.
Just painting everything in sight worked for me. It's such a shame there's no online voice chat though, and maybe it's Nintendo not wanting to have any offensive language in their games, but I just think it's so central to any sort of online play.
Yeah, I mean, voice chat would have been nice, but I didn't miss it so much in this game. I mean, when you get down to it, painting the map is a simple enough goal for everyone to get behind.
I think they've absolutely nailed the mechanics. Instead of ammo boxes, you refill your ink supply by swimming around in it. Plus, when you're swimming in the ink, you're harder to see and less likely to be shot, especially since you move faster.
But of course, the downside to swimming is that you're not painting any of the map, and every second counts. So you've got a huge incentive to get out and contribute to the score as soon as possible. Which I think gives the gameplay a really nice balance to it.
I was impressed at how well all the online works. You access all the modes from a central plaza. And going online is as easy as walking through these doors.
Plus, they even give you a little doodle jump style game to play on the gamepad while you're waiting in the lobby.
We should also mention the single-player campaign, which is quite different to online play.
Yeah, the single player is more about obstacle course style challenges. So abilities like being able to swim up walls you've inked are much more important here. Plus, they've sprinkled levels with tricky enemy types that you need to sneak past or distract with grenades.
And there are the usual trimmings like orbs to collect, which you can buy better weapons with, and even some classic 3-stage bosses. The single player was much more fleshed out than I was expecting.
Yeah, me too. I think for me the only mode that fell flat was that 2-player local co-op. It was just so slow-paced compared to 8 players online. But that's a small gripe considering how well they've done with everything else.
It's just so good to see Nintendo trying something different and have it come together so well. And they're regularly dropping new maps too, which is great. I'm giving this 3.5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, considering what a simple concept it's based around, they've managed to squeeze so much fun and depth out of it. I think this is hands down one of the best Wii U games out there. I'm giving it 4.5 stars.
There are 8 million Easter eggs out there in the world. This is but one of them. They're out there. I've seen them with my own 2 eyes. You don't have to believe me. But you should, because I'm Dave Callan, Games Investigator. In Metal Gear Solid 4, Old Snake has the opportunity to stumble into a crop circle while tracking Naomi's footsteps. If you step into it, you hear the voice of Colonel Campbell recounting the time he was abducted by aliens.
Suddenly, there was intense light all around me. And when I came to, I was home.
A good catch, that one. But I think my favorite Snake secret is from Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. If you keep spinning Snake around in circles in the survival viewer, he'll eventually regurgitate his last meal. Considering the game is called Snake Eater, I don't really blame him for being queasy. I mean, you would too, if your entire diet consisted of slimy reptile.
What we love about puzzles is that you may have all the pieces, but it's up to you to figure out how they fit together. And that's kind of what detective work is like too. But what if you don't have all the puzzle pieces? What if you have to find them first? And to do that, you'll have to ask the right questions to hear all of her story.
You think it's murder? I mean, clearly it's murder. What can I do to help?
Her Story is an unusual experience as far as games go. It's an interactive movie game. You are tasked with sorting through a series of old videos from 1994 on a police database in an attempt to piece together the events surrounding a murder.
Like most story-driven games, it's a tricky one to talk about without spoiling anything, so you'll have to forgive us for being a little vague. Basically, the archive system has been corrupted, and the only way to gain access to all the videos is by searching for the right keywords to populate the entries.
Then you can tag and save any videos you find relevant to the case. So, just like a detective that needs to ask the right questions, you need to identify the right keywords, and that is how you will discover the truth.
First of all, the interface looks great. Appropriately retro and does a nice job of setting the scene. You genuinely feel like you're going through old archival footage, and I was drawn in immediately.
The first keyword, murder, has been entered for you, populating the first set of videos, where you'll meet the woman you're about to be spending a whole lot of time with, and you don't even know her name.
Based on her hair, the clothes she's wearing, and the date stamp, you know these videos are from a number of different interview sessions.
Yes, all things you'll need to be constantly paying attention to. It's quite tricky following this story with such random snippets of information in a very jumbled timeline, but that's why it's good to be able to tag and save videos.
Yeah, and not every piece of information is relevant either.
No, and in any one video, the woman will mention a whole bunch of things we're searching for.
Yeah, but just one of those keywords will send you down a rabbit hole of video after video, a new keyword after keyword, that you forget about the first 5 things you wanted to search for originally. I ended up resorting to pen and paper, and this is what my notes ended up looking like. I felt like a crazy person.
It's so worth keeping written notes on all the information worth revisiting, though.
Yeah, and I feel like the game does a pretty good job of guiding you in the direction that it wants you to go. For example, there are a number of words that will pop up over and over in conversation. Words I wouldn't necessarily think were relevant, like sad, or fairy tale, or princess.
And save the princess, that kind of thing. There were always princes and princesses. They were the special people, more important than the other characters in their stories.
But you hear them often enough and it's like a song you can't get out of your head. And following those leads can lead to some pretty interesting results.
Yeah, and there are a lot of theories floating around about what really happened. We played through to a point where I think we figured the whole thing out. Unless there's some other layer beyond the obvious that we're missing.
I think that by following certain specific leads on my playthrough meant that I got some pretty key pieces of information quite quickly, and then it was just a case of filling in the blanks around that. In an ideal scenario, the plot would unfold a little slower and juicier than that, I think, but it is great that everyone's experience is going to be different.
Do you think Her Story was a tale well told?
Well, I just like playing anything that tries something new. And I was glued to this story from the moment I hit play on that first video.
I like that you find yourself paying attention to nuances in the way she moves, the direction she's looking in, trying to determine if she's giving something away.
It's a really different and subtle way to approach mystery solving. I don't think we've experienced anything like this since LA Noire. What I liked most is that I could input just about anything, knowing that it could yield some exciting new piece of information.
It was my birthday, like you said. We were going to have a meal at home. We had our meal. He gave me his present. I guess I didn't like the present.
Well, the developer Sam Barlow actually said he was disappointed with games like LA Noire.
LAPD, could you stand clear of the body, please?
That he felt aimed to make you feel clever, rather than actually letting you figure things out for yourself.
Everett.
And you are?
Galleta.
And that is what inspired Her Story.
Yeah, and I think he certainly achieved that sense of having the player feel like they're in control of the discovery process. But I still had a few issues. One being that I think a little bit too much is given away too quickly with just some of those earlier, more obvious set of search words. And that sent me on a path of keywords that just revealed a little too much too soon. But then again, maybe that was just my experience.
If I had one wish, it would be that there were more interviews, more than just this one woman. A real detective case would have lots of people all connected and lots of information to gather and cross-reference, and I think that would have been far more compelling, especially as there are other people mentioned in this case.
That was a gift from his boss, Eric.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess that would have been a more ambitious project, and this being a kind of new idea, they were just trying to focus on this one very complex story. Still, I absolutely recommend it regardless because it was such a unique and captivating experience. So I'm giving it 3.5 stars.
Yeah, it's certainly original. I think it's worth a play as well. I'm giving it 3 stars.
Simon isn't the type to run off or do anything crazy. Someone must have done something to him, or there must have been some kind of accident. So what do we do next?
Is it working?
No.
How about now?
Nope.
Well, Hex, looks like we've got a mystery on our hands. We need to interview suspects, get fingerprints, and most importantly, name the game for this week.
Got it. It was Astron Belt from 1983. While the story was very simple, you had to save the universe from an invading armada, it was the technical achievements of the game that made it unique. Developed for and released on Laserdisc, it did come with quite a few hardware and software bugs. And it's our Name the Game as it used a lot of full motion video, a format that is back thanks to this week's Her Story.
Next week on the show, our sleep patterns are ruined yet again as we jump into a new and quite unique MMO with Albion Online.
And Hitman Go was a really good mobile game, so let's see if they can catch lightning in a bottle twice with Hitman Sniper.
Our client enjoys creativity, so look for inventive ways of dispatching them.
And over on Spawn Point this weekend, our show for younger gamers on ABC3, it's an episode 65 million years in the making, with a full dinosaur special and a review of Yoshi's Woolly World.
And I'm in a onesie. Until next time, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
Bajo out.
Really? The greatest movie of all time?
Absolutely. Maybe next to Happy Gilmore or Office Space.
An Adam Sandler movie?
Have you seen Happy Gilmore?
Yes.
It is perfect. It is perfection.